I spent most of my life believing I was different from my father, better even. And I held on to that belief for a very long time, longer than I probably should have. It made things simpler, I guess, cleaner. It gave me a way to explain things to myself without having to look too closely. My name is Samuel. I'm 83 years old. And for most of my life, I was certain about one thing. I did not want to become my father. I grew up watching him from a distance, even when we were sitting in the same room. That's the best way I can explain it. He was there, physically, but it always felt like something stood between us. Not anger, not cruelty, just quiet. He was a quiet man, not unkind, not harsh, just closed off in a way I didn't understand at the time. He worked long hours, real long hours. He'd leave early, come home tired, sometimes already worn down before he even stepped through the door. And he carried something heavy with him. You could feel it. I could, at least. But I never asked him about it. I didn't know how. And if I'm being honest, I don't think he knew how to talk about it either. When I was young, I mistook that silence for indifference. I really did. I thought if he cared more, he would say more. If he loved us deeply, it would show up in ways I could recognize. Words, smiles, questions. Instead, it showed up in packed lunches, paid bills, fixed doors, and a man who never missed a day of work, even when his body probably begged him to. But as a child, I didn't see that. What I saw was what was missing, and somewhere along the way, I made a promise to myself. I didn't announce it. I didn't write it down. It was just there, quietly forming in my mind. I promised myself that when I grew up, my children would never wonder how I felt about them. They wouldn't have to guess. They wouldn't sit in silence trying to interpret my moods or my absence. I would say the things my father never said. At least, that's what I believed back then. When I left home, I didn't look back very often. I told myself that was part of growing up. That distance meant independence. That building my own life required leaving his behind. We spoke on holidays, sometimes on birthdays, short phone calls, polite conversations, the kind where you talk about the weather or work or how things are fine. Always fine. It felt like two men walking around something fragile they didn't want to touch. Like if we stepped too close, something might break. I told myself there was plenty of time. Time to talk, time to ask questions, time to understand him later, when things slowed down, when life wasn't so busy, when it made more sense. Life, of course, didn't wait for that. I built a career. I raised children. I paid bills, fixed things around the house, showed up when I could. And I really believed that counted for something. Somewhere along the way, I became busy in the way adults often do. Busy enough to think effort was the same as presence. Busy enough to believe that being there physically was enough. And slowly, so slowly I didn't notice, I started to sound like him. It didn't happen all at once. There wasn't a moment where I looked in the mirror and thought, oh, this is it. No, it happened in pieces. A short answer here. A distracted response there, saying later. More often than I realized, saying I'm tired, like it explained everything. I remember one moment very clearly. My son asked me a question. I don't even remember what it was now. Something small, something that mattered to him in that moment. And I answered him without really listening. My mind was elsewhere. Work, maybe. Bills. Something broken that needed fixing. I gave him an answer, but I didn't give him my attention. And I remember the look on his face, Not angry, not dramatic, just confused, a little disappointed, like he wasn't sure if he should keep talking or stop. I brushed it off. I told myself it was nothing, that it was just one moment, that I was tired, that I'd do better next time. But moments, they stack up, quietly, patiently. And one day, you look back and realize they've become a pattern. Years passed. My father grew older. His voice softened on the phone. He repeated himself more. I noticed. I really did. I just didn't do anything with that noticing. I didn't ask why. I didn't ask about his childhood, his fears, the weight he carried for decades without complaint. Part of me was afraid of what I might find, and another part of me still believed I had time. Then one winter morning I got the call. He was gone. There's a kind of quiet that follows news like that. Not silence exactly, more like the absence of something you didn't realize had always been there. The world felt off, tilted somehow, like a background noise had stopped, and only then did I notice it had existed at all. At the funeral, people spoke about him in ways I wasn't prepared for. They talked about his sacrifices, his loyalty, how he showed up when it mattered, even if he didn't always know how to say the right things. They told stories that didn't match the version of him I carried in my head. I stood there listening, feeling like I was hearing about a stranger who somehow shared my last name. In the weeks that followed, my mind kept drifting back to old memories. Not the big ones, the small ones. Him sitting at the table late at night, papers spread out, trying to make sense of numbers. Him fixing things that didn't really need fixing. Him standing in the doorway, watching us, silent, steady, always there. That's when things began to shift. After the funeral, I went back to his house. It was quiet in a different way. Not peaceful, just still, like the walls were holding their breath. I opened drawers, looked through old papers, found letters he never sent, notes about bills, about us kids, about worries he never voiced out loud. There it was, proof of a man who carried far more than he ever showed, a man who believed love was proven through responsibility, not words, a man who didn't know how to explain himself, but showed up every single day anyway, and slowly, uncomfortably, it hit me. I hadn't been running away from my father. I had been running away from understanding him. I was so focused on not becoming him that I never stopped to ask who he actually was. I judged him from the outside. I measured him by what he lacked, not by what he carried. I decided his silence meant distance, when it might have meant restraint, or fear, or simply not knowing how. The hardest part is realizing how much time I had to ask those questions, how many chances I ignored because I assumed there would always be another one. There wasn't. Now, at this age, I see myself more clearly. I hear his voice in my own. I notice the same habits, the same silences, the same instinct to show love through action instead of words. And instead of anger, I feel something closer to tenderness. He did the best he could with what he knew, just like I did, just like we all do, I suppose. There are days now when I sit quietly and imagine what it would have been like to talk to him differently, not to confront him, not to fix anything, just to listen, to ask, to understand. I imagine sitting across from him and saying, "I see you now." And maybe, for the first time, we'd both feel understood. I don't carry resentment anymore, just a soft regret. Not sharp, not loud, just present. Like a reminder that doesn't shout but doesn't leave either. If you're listening to this and there's someone in your life who feels distant or hard to understand, I won't tell you what to do. I won't give advice. I've learned that life doesn't work that way. I'll just say this, quietly, from where I stand now. Understanding often comes too late, unless you invite it sooner.